Good evening. The revolution of action begins with ideas fueled by the youth and guided by the diaspora. My sisters and brothers of Ghana at home and abroad, I wish you all a joyous holiday season. It is a time to refresh the soul while making a pledge to enlighten your mind and strengthen your body. In the days ahead, please take the time to celebrate the love of self and family. As 2023 unfolds, we know it will be a time that will test our resolve to work towards a better future for ourselves, our family, relatives, friends, neighbors, and all our fellow citizens of Ghana, our homeland. Make it a point to feed your mind and soul as you celebrate the festivities of holidays with food and drink for the body. I had wished to deliver an upbeat message of peace and joy during this holiday season. Sadly, I cannot. Each passing day, the news from the government in Accra reminds us, as citizens, that each day shall be filled with the hard work of saving our nation. We must work to change this failed government every day. On December 20th, 2022, after announcing that the preliminary deal has been struck with the IMF for yet another massive bailout, the Nana Akufo-Addo administration announced that it will no longer service its external debt. This, my friends, will go down in world history as one of the biggest sovereign bond defaults. The Nana Akufo-Addo administration, after decades of failed government leadership by the NPP and NDC and borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, have opted to go the route of Venezuela. The IMF, in agreeing to the latest $3 billion bailout loan for Ghana, has explicitly demanded that it not be used to pay off foreign debt. IMF sees the loan as a lifeline for the government of Ghana to put its domestic financial house in order. Ghana owes China over $3.5 billion, more than the current negotiated IMF loan. Will China, with much invested in the precious resources of our nation, including our gold, our oil, our agriculture, and seafood production, willingly accept a restructuring of what is owed to them? When they refuse and demand more, it would allow other nations who hold Ghanaian debt to do the same. It will take years to negotiate these international transactions, leaving Ghana in the same position as Venezuela, or lead to foreign countries owing more of our resources. The schemes and corruption of decades of failed leadership in Venezuela led to an economic collapse that will reverberate for a century in this South American nation. Venezuela, like Ghana, is a country rich in resources with a diverse, hardworking population. Government officials manipulated and stole its natural resources through state-owned industries staffed by political cronies. As the economic game of government came tumbling down in Venezuela, the people bore the brunt of the suffering. Inflation was and remains astronomical. Domestic goods, including food, became scarce. Crime spiraled out of control. The nation was shunned by US and other Western nations. Power outages are widespread because of decades of infrastructure neglect by a corrupt government. My friends, the South America mirror that reflects the unraveling of the Venezuela Ponzi scheme perpetrated by a greedy, corrupt class is turning towards Africa. It has Ghana in its sights. The politicians of Venezuela came face to face with reality and realized that the total default was their own salvation. The Ghanaian ruling political class, comprised of party loyalists of the NPP and NDC and executives of the over 130 government-owned industries and the enterprises, are sharing in the mirror of default. 2 days after the IMF agreement and the default announcements, Standard & Poor's Global, an international credit rating agency, lowered the sovereign rating on Ghana to selective default from CC. It is one step away, most likely days from being lowered to a D rating, which means default. This is telling international financial markets that Ghana cannot pay its debts. In announcing the default in sovereign bonds, the Nana Akufo-Addo administration made no mention of the pensions promised and owed by the government. The pensions worth approximately $20.1 billion are the lifeblood of retired civil servants. The pension system of Ghana holds about 6% of the government's debt that is now at risk of defaulting. The pension scheme is administered by SSNIT, has an active membership of over 1.6 million people as of January 2021, with over 226,000 pensioners who regularly receive their monthly pensions from SSNIT. On December 2022, realizing the uproar that could flood the streets, the administration announced that the public debt held by the pensions would be exempt from default. To paraphrase Shakespeare, this is a tangled web. How will the Nana Akufo-Addo administration and the NPP or their counterparts in the NDC begin to unravel this web? The easy way out is to go to the route of Venezuela and become a default nation. The hard way and the right way are to end the government of corruption. We need a revolution of ideas that is fueled by the youth and guided by the successful citizens of Ghana in the diaspora. The professors in our universities, the teachers in our schools, the homegrown entrepreneurs, and those abroad in the diaspora must cultivate ideas for a government that works for the people. It begins with education. The Nana Akufo-Addo administration, the ministers, the MPs of the NPP and their counterparts in the NDC are intent on closing the doors of ideas by degrading the educational system. Beginning in 2016, the budget allocation for education began a steady decline. On December 22nd, 2022, while the Ghana International Credit was being downgraded to junk status, Send Ghana, an NGO, noted that the 2023 budget education share was cut again, this time to 12% of expenditures. This, they claim, was a decrease from 17.7% of the budget only 5 years ago. In fact, the anti-education, anti-youth Nana Akufo-Addo administration has continuously cut the education budget while he sings Sikam Pedede, Sikam Pedede. In a nation where 55% of the population is under 25 years old and 70% is under 30 years of age, the trend line for education should be sharply rising, not declining. It is imperative to increase the budget for educational infrastructure, as well as annual budgets for instructional personnel and technology innovations. Article 42 of the 1992 Constitution states, every citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age or above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for the purposes of public elections and referenda. The High Court in Accra affirmed that this clause applied to those citizens living in the diaspora and ordered that a system be put in place so that all citizens of Ghana can exercise their vote. Nothing has been delivered. The elections of 2008, 12, 16, and 2020 have come and gone, with 2024 looming large, and not one vote has been cast and counted from a citizen of the diaspora. Early this year, George Aite, a Ghanaian author, economist, and professor, died. He was a man who thought about the change needed across Africa. Speaking to an American audience, he said, "What you and I understand as a government doesn't exist in many African countries. In fact, what we call our governments are vampire states. Vampires because they suck the economic vitality out of their people. Government is a problem in Africa. We need the professors of our universities and colleges to grab the banner of ideas and open truthful, honest discussions with the youth of our nation. Ideas matter. Many professors and teachers are afraid of publicly encouraging the open discussion of ideas because their checks are signed by the government of corruption. Remember these words. Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Together, we, the citizens of Ghana, who are professors, lawyers, doctors, nurses, auto mechanics, preachers, fishermen, oil workers, merchants, teachers, taxi drivers, traditional leaders, real estate developers, singers, airline pilots, comedians, entrepreneurs, and yes, even politicians, both home and abroad, must be the rod and staff for each other. Together, we must seize the ideas of the young and make them a reality for a nation that embraces truth, independence, honesty, and success for one and for all. My name is Kofi Koranteng. I am your independent choice for president on the 2024 ballot, and my message is clear, concise, viable, and ready to take our nation into the future to create a new Ghana government. My underlying principles and policies use a science-based, data-driven, human-centered approach to bring a viable working government to our nation. Before I embarked on this undertaking, I thought long and hard about the faults of the current government, the two major parties, and how I and other like-minded individuals could create effective change for Ghanaians. Through hours of discussions with sisters and brothers at home and in the diaspora over the last 2 decades, I have formulated a blueprint to restructure the government of Ghana to serve its people. The purpose of government is to serve its citizens. The government of Ghana has become a gang of con artists steeped in the corruption of money, power, and the riches of luxury. They have forgotten the people. As they drive in their motorcades through the streets, they cannot even see the faces of Ghana through the tinted windows of their luxury automobiles paid for by the hardworking citizens. The two parties, the NPP and NDC, joined at the wallet, have treated the sanctity and power of Parliament as if it's an ATM machine that only dispenses withdrawals into their pockets. Brothers and sisters, this must end in 2024. Along with concerned citizens from all levels of society, I have developed a plan that focuses on creating a living, working partnership between the governed and the government. We will redirect monies from ex gratia and Article 71 to the solvency of Ghana. We will cut the bloated government of do-nothing, cash-sucking ministers and ministries from the more than 100 that exist today to 10, saving hundreds of millions in salaries and perks every month. This money will be applied to the debt. We have a similar plan of cutting the waste and excess of government-owned industries, enterprises, and organizations. It is a dynamic plan. The Koranteng plan is detailed, concise, and adaptable to meet the needs of the future. It includes instituting a national development plan for the next 20, 30, and 50 years. I have publicly published my plan on the web at kofikoranteng.com. I invite you to explore my detailed policies, plans, blueprints and philosophy of governance at your leisure and in detail. I invite everyone to join me in live discussions on Clubhouse, Facebook, TikTok, and Telegram. Please post your comments and ideas on these and the other campaign social media handles included on Twitter, Instagram, and the rest. Let us be the light for each other. I wish each of you a blessed, happy, and healthy holiday season and a happy new year full of prosperity and hope for the change ahead of us. God bless our homeland, Ghana.